Barry Coleman's voice carried across the factory floor like a machine announcement. "I'm pleased to announce our new Vice President of Operations." He paused, scanning the faces of 30 engineers and supervisors packed into the break room. "Ashley Warren will be taking the helm, effective immediately." My hands went still on the coffee cup I was holding. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "I'm Wade Robinson, 49 years old, and I've been running production lines since Ashley Warren was in middle school. For 14 months, I'd been promised this exact position. For 14 months, I'd worked 70-hour weeks turning Detroit Precision Manufacturing from a quality disaster into Ford Motor Company's most reliable supplier." Ashley stepped forward, all 28 years of her fresh MBA diploma practically still warm from the printer. She had that corporate consultant smile, the kind that cost $200,000 in student loans to perfect. "Thank you, everyone," she said, reading from her phone. "I'm excited to leverage our core competencies and drive sustainable growth in the automotive vertical through cross-functional optimization." Miguel Santos, our lead machinist, shot me a look that said everything. 20 years on the floor, and Miguel had never heard anyone describe bolt manufacturing as a vertical before. The applause was scattered, polite, confused. Barry beamed like he'd just announced the winning lottery numbers. Ashley kept talking about synergistic deliverables while everyone else studied their shoes. I didn't clap. I just twisted my wedding ring, a habit from my Marine Corps days. Still wore it 2 years after Lisa and I divorced. Some routines stick harder than others. After the meeting, I cornered Barry in his office. The plant floor hummed below us, 450 workers, depending on every decision made in this room. Through the window, I could see Line 3 running the Ford F-150 suspension components that had saved our contracts. "Barry, we need to discuss what just happened." He shuffled papers without looking up. "If this is about Ashley's promotion, save it." The board made their choice. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to the email from 14 months ago, the one I'd screenshot for insurance. March 15th, 2023, your exact words. "Deliver the Ford contract with zero quality issues, and the VP operations position is yours. Your signature, your company email, your promise." Barry glanced at the screen like it might bite him. "Context changes. Wade. Market conditions evolve." What context? I delivered. 40% efficiency improvement, 0 defects across 50,000 parts. Ford extended our contract through 2025, $2.8 million in new business. "And you should be proud of that work." He finally looked at me. "But Ashley brings fresh perspectives. The board wants new energy in leadership. New energy." Translation: young, cheap, and connected. Ashley's father sat on the investor committee, a detail Barry thought nobody knew. "What about the people downstairs?" I gestured toward the production floor. "They don't need fresh perspectives. They need someone who understands line operations, supplier relations, quality systems. They need someone who won't learn on their backs." Barry's jaw tightened. "Don't make this emotional. This isn't about them. It's about you not getting what you expected." Expected. Like honoring a written commitment was some kind of unrealistic fantasy. I stood up. "You know what the difference is between a promise and a lie, Barry? What?" About 14 months, the color drained from his face. For a second, he looked like a man who'd just realized his engine was making a new noise. I walked the production floor one last time before heading home. Line 1 through Line 4, all running in perfect sync. Every station optimized, every quality checkpoint streamlined, every supplier relationship rebuilt from scratch. My work? The Ford suspension components moved down the conveyor like clockwork. Each part had to meet tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. One mistake, one shortcut, one moment of carelessness, and people died. The brackets I'd redesigned would hold wings onto trucks carrying families home. Miguel caught my eye at Station 7. "Everything okay, Wade?" Just checking throughput numbers. But everything wasn't okay. I'd given Detroit Precision 14 months of 12-hour days, missed weekends, skipped dinners. I'd rebuilt their operation from near bankruptcy, while my marriage collapsed and my daughter learned to make her own dinner most nights. Now Ashley Warren, who couldn't tell a torque wrench from a screwdriver, would be managing systems she'd never operated, suppliers she'd never met, and quality standards she'd never implemented. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad. 2 columns, stay or leave. Under stay, I wrote steady paycheck, health insurance, close to Emma's school. Under leave, I wrote self-respect, integrity, unknown opportunities. The leave column was shorter, but every word weighed more. My phone rang. Emma's picture lit up the screen. her graduation photo from last spring. "Dad, you sound weird." Emma was 17 senior year, college applications due in 4 months. Straight A student, wanted to study mechanical engineering like her old man, but college cost $35,000 a year now, and the divorce settlement had cleaned out most of her education fund. Just tired. "Sweetheart, how's calculus treating you?" "Like a root canal without anesthesia." "Are you eating actual food or living on vending machine coffee again?" This kid worried about me too much for someone who should be focused on prom committees and scholarship applications. "I'm eating fine, Dad. You always say that." "Listen, if money's tight for college, I can take a gap year. Maybe work at the mall." "No." The word came out harder than I intended. "You're going to college. Michigan State accepted your early application. You're going to be an engineer." After we hung up, I stared at those 2 columns again. Emma deserved better than watching her father get stepped on by corporate politics. She deserved to see what happened when someone stood up for what was right. I wrote my resignation in 15 minutes. 2 paragraphs, professional, effective immediately. No accusations, no anger, just facts and a polite farewell. The next morning, I walked into Barry's office and placed the resignation letter on his desk. He was on the phone with someone about delivery schedules, gesturing with his free hand, like the person could see him through the receiver. "What's this?" he asked, ending the call mid-sentence. "My resignation, effective today." Barry's eyes went wide like someone had just told him the plant was on fire. He tore the envelope open, reading fast, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and finally landing on panic. "Wade, stop. You're upset about yesterday. Sit down. Let's work this out." "Nothing to work out." I stepped back toward the door. "Good luck with Ashley. You can't just walk away." His voice cracked on the last word. "She doesn't know the Ford quality protocols. She's never handled a supplier audit. The ISO recertification is next month. Sounds like her learning curve." Barry stood up so fast his chair rolled backward and hit the filing cabinet. "Think about your future, your reputation. No other company will hire someone who abandons ship under pressure." There it was, the threat wrapped in fake concern. Classic Barry Coleman move. "I'm not abandoning anything," I said. "I'm walking away from a company that doesn't honor its commitments." His mouth opened and closed like a carburetor choking on bad gas. For the first time since I'd known Barry Coleman, he had nothing to say. I turned and walked out. The production floor was hitting first shift stride, 450 people keeping American manufacturing competitive. These workers had trusted me to keep their jobs secure. I'd done everything possible. Now they'd have to hope Ashley learned fast or Barry found someone who actually knew the business. The walk to my truck felt longer than usual. 23 years of getting to work before sunrise, staying past sunset, bleeding Detroit precision blue. Now I was walking away from the only job I'd known since leaving the Marines. I sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes, engine running, heat blasting against the October cold. Through the windshield, I could see the plant that had been my second home. The building where I'd fixed every crisis, solved every quality issue, rebuilt every relationship with every supplier. My phone buzzed, text from Miguel. "Heard what happened. This is wrong, man." Then another from Janet in quality control. "Ashley just asked me what a deviation report is." She's not joking. By the end of the week, my LinkedIn inbox was filling up with quiet desperation. "Production scheduler, line 2, shut down for 8 hours yesterday." Nobody knew the restart sequence. "Quality engineer, Ford rejected our entire Tuesday shipment." Ashley approved parts that failed incoming inspection. I felt sorry for the workers, but not sorry enough to fix Barry's mess. He'd made his choice. Now he could live with the consequences. The real story started 14 months earlier, when Barry called me into his office, with complete confidence written all over his face. "Wade, you're the only manager I trust with the Phoenix program." He'd leaned back in his chair like a man announcing Christmas bonuses. "If you can turn the Ford contract around, bring us into compliance. The VP operations position is yours." I'd looked up from the production reports I was reviewing. "You mean officially mine?" "Absolutely. This contract is worth $2.8 million annually. Ford's ready to pull the plug over quality issues. You fix it with 0 defects, and I'll make sure you get the promotion you've earned." Those words hit harder than Barry knew. After losing everything in the 2008 plant closures, watching Lisa work 2 jobs while I collected unemployment, I needed something solid, something I could count on. "Then I'll fix it," I told him. He smiled like a man who already owned the result. I knew you would. From that day forward, my life shifted into overdrive. Lisa learned not to expect me for dinner because I was always at the plant. You're killing yourself, she'd say, standing in the kitchen doorway at 5:30 a.m. while I grabbed my second cup of coffee. It's temporary. This promotion changes everything for us. She'd nod, but I could see the concern in her eyes. We'd been through too much uncertainty already. The plant closure, the 6 months of unemployment, watching our savings evaporate while I sent out resumes that nobody answered. My brother called one Saturday afternoon while I was reviewing supplier quality metrics at the kitchen table. You sound exhausted, Wade. Just working. It's important. More important than family time. I paused, looking at Lisa in the backyard, pulling weeds from her garden. This isn't just about money. It's about proving I can still build something worth keeping. The Phoenix program was a disaster when I inherited it. Tolerances wrong, outdated processes, quality control that barely existed. The previous engineer had left a mess of half-documented procedures and quick fixes that somehow passed inspection, but failed under real production pressure. Twice, the whole operation nearly collapsed. Once because a supplier delivered the wrong aluminum grade, 775 instead of 661. The parts looked identical until we ran stress tests and watched $60,000 worth of components crack under load. The second crisis happened when someone loaded incorrect G-code and nearly scrapped an entire batch of suspension brackets that took 12 hours each to machine. Both times, Barry called me at 6 a.m. Wade, fix this. He'd demand like I was the only person in Detroit capable of holding things together. I did fix it. I rewrote the CNC programs line by line, checking every feed rate and spindle speed. I established proper quality checkpoints with documented procedures that even temporary workers could follow. I talked down a Ford inspector who showed up unannounced and threatened to pull our contract when he found inconsistencies in our measurement records. Your documentation is incomplete, he'd said, flipping through our quality logs. These signatures don't match your employee records, and your measurement protocols aren't standardized. I spent 16 hours straight rebuilding the entire quality system while he waited. When I finished, he looked genuinely surprised. This is actually better than what most suppliers maintain. Who developed this system? I did. He made notes in his tablet. Make sure this stays consistent. When the crisis passed, Barry stood up in the production meeting and announced, "We stayed on schedule thanks to strong departmental leadership." He didn't look in my direction once. After the meeting, I confronted him in his office. You could have acknowledged what actually happened. Barry waved his hand like he was swatting a fly. Everyone knows you're reliable. You'll get your recognition when the time comes. I believed him. Every 14-hour shift, every weekend I spent programming, every supplier crisis I resolved, I tied it all to the future he'd promised me. The future I thought was waiting. By month 6, I'd transformed the Phoenix program completely. What had been a chaotic mess became a showcase operation. I implemented lean manufacturing principles, eliminated bottlenecks, and reduced waste by 35%. The quality metrics spoke for themselves. 0 defects across 15,000 parts, 99.8% on-time delivery, and customer satisfaction scores that Ford had never seen from a subcontractor. Every part hit specification. Every delivery landed early. Every inspection passed without question. When Ford's quality director called, she asked for me by name. "Wade, you saved this rollout. We've never seen a turnaround this clean. I'm sending a formal commendation to your management." Something settled in my chest, a feeling I hadn't experienced since my Marine promotion ceremony 25 years earlier. Thank you. That means more than you know. We're recommending Detroit Precision for additional contracts based on your work. This could be worth millions to your company over the next 3 years. The letter arrived 2 days later. Barry opened it before I saw it, naturally. "Good work," he said, waving the page casually. "I'll include this in our quarterly board report." I reached for the letter, but he folded it and slipped it under his other documents. "Barry, I'd like a copy of that." "I'll forward it to you," he said, already turning toward his computer. He did forward it eventually. But when I walked past the conference room later that week and saw him reviewing his quarterly presentation, something made my stomach drop. My processes, my improvements, my innovations were woven into paragraphs under management achievements. My methodologies were described as strategic leadership initiatives. My problem solving was labeled as departmental optimization under executive guidance. My name appeared once buried in a footnote as project contributor. I stepped inside the conference room. You're presenting my work as your own. Barry didn't look up from his laptop. I'm presenting departmental achievements. Don't get hung up on details. It's not details. It's credit for 14 months of work. He exhaled sharply, closing the laptop with more force than necessary. Wade, please. The promotion discussion is coming soon. Everything will make sense then. I wanted to believe him. For weeks, co-workers had been nudging me with knowing looks. Tom from quality control pulled me aside one afternoon. You're next up. Everyone knows it. Barry can't ignore what you've accomplished. Lisa from production planning agreed. I've never seen anything like what you did with Phoenix. If they don't promote you, they're idiots. Even the machinists, who usually kept to themselves, started treating me differently. They'd nod respectfully when I walked through their area, ask my opinion on process improvements. They treated me like someone who already had the title. But while I was rebuilding Detroit Precision's reputation, my own life was falling apart in slow motion. Lisa and I were barely speaking by month 8. She'd find me at the kitchen table at midnight. Sketching process flows on napkins. You're obsessing, she'd say gently. I'm being thorough. This has to be perfect. Nothing has to be that perfect. But she was wrong. In automotive manufacturing, perfection isn't optional. One deviation, one shortcut, one moment of carelessness, and people die. The brackets I was machining would hold suspension systems together. The tolerances I was setting would determine whether families made it home safely from vacation trips and grocery runs. Barry might not understand that weight, but I felt it every day. By month 10, the work had consumed me completely. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. thinking about feed rates and tool wear. I'd dream about quality control charts and supplier certifications. The divorce papers arrived while I was at the plant, fixing a calibration issue that couldn't wait until morning. Lisa left them on the kitchen counter with a note. I can't compete with Detroit Precision anymore. You've made your choice. I called her that night, standing in the empty break room while second shift ran the lines I'd optimized. Lisa, we can work this out. The promotion is coming. Things will be different, Wade. You've been saying that for a year. When was the last time you missed work for anything? When did you last come home before 8 p.m.? I couldn't answer because I couldn't remember. I'm not leaving because I don't love you, she continued. I'm leaving because Detroit Precision loves you more than I ever could. The divorce was final 2 months before Ashley Warren got my job. On the morning of the department meeting that changed everything, several engineers stopped by my workstation. Good luck today, one said. You've earned this. I adjusted my wedding ring, still wearing it out of habit, even though the papers were signed. Thanks, I'm ready. I was ready. I had spreadsheets full of metrics proving my impact. I had documentation of every improvement I'd made. I had client testimonials and quality certifications. When I walked into that meeting, I thought I knew what was coming. Barry stood at the front of the packed conference room with his usual, rehearsed confidence. The entire engineering department was there, 32 people crammed into a space meant for 20. Before we begin, he said, I want to recognize someone who will be stepping into a crucial leadership role. I straightened in my chair, conscious of everyone's eyes on me. This was it. 14 months of 70-hour weeks, countless weekends, endless problem solving. It was finally paying off. Ashley Warren will be our new vice president of operations. The words hit like a physical blow. A murmur swept through the room, confusion, discomfort, disbelief. Ashley, who had joined Detroit Precision 4 months earlier, blinked like she needed a second to understand what she'd heard. She stood up slowly, smoothing her blazer with nervous hands. Thank you, everyone. I'm really excited to leverage our core competencies and drive sustainable growth in the automotive vertical through cross-functional optimization. Someone coughed. An engineer stared at his shoes. She was using buzzwords she clearly didn't understand, mixing terminology from different departments. She didn't know the difference between CNC programming and quality control. She couldn't distinguish between manufacturing processes and engineering specifications. Yet she kept talking, unaware of the awkwardness filling the room like toxic gas. My hands stayed motionless while Barry led the applause with forced enthusiasm. He looked proud of her, proud of himself, proud of a decision that made no sense to anyone else in the room. The humiliation settled deep and sharp, deeper than anger ever could reach. The room emptied quickly after the meeting, people avoiding eye contact as they filed out. But 2 veteran machinists approached me quietly in the hallway. Wade, one said, that should have been you. Everyone knows it. The second nodded grimly. We're sorry. This is wrong. I forced a smile that felt like plastic. Thanks for saying that. Their words should have been comforting, but they only made the betrayal sharper. If everyone could see what Barry refused to acknowledge, then his decision wasn't about competence or qualifications. It was about something else entirely. 3 weeks after I left Detroit Precision, the first desperate message reached me. It was from Ashley herself. Wade, do you have a minute? I'm trying to interpret a Ford specification, and I think I'm reading it wrong. I stared at the screen for 30 seconds before typing back. I can't assist. You need to contact current management or the lead engineer. Not even 2 hours later, another message arrived. This time from Ford's production coordinator. We've noticed several delays and conflicting updates from Detroit Precision. Can you clarify what's happening on their end? I'm no longer with Detroit Precision Manufacturing, I replied. You'll need to contact their current operations manager. A pause, then. That explains the communication breakdown. Best of luck in your next position. By month's end, my LinkedIn inbox was filling with quiet panic. A production scheduler. Line 4 has been down for 2 days. Ashley doesn't know the restart procedures. A quality engineer. We failed our ISO audit. Ashley couldn't explain our deviation tracking system. I didn't respond to any of them. I wouldn't be pulled back into fixing a mess I'd already escaped. The call that changed everything came on a Tuesday morning 6 weeks after my resignation. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Is this Wade Robinson? Speaking. This is George Patterson, COO at Great Lakes Industrial. Ford Motor Company recommended you personally. They said you ran the most efficient automotive operation they'd audited in a decade. I sank into my kitchen chair, Emma's college acceptance letters scattered across the table. I appreciate that. We're expanding our automotive division. Looking for someone to head operations with full P&L authority and equity participation. Would you be interested in discussing it? The interview happened that Friday. Great Lakes had 280 employees, family-owned for 45 years, specializing in precision manufacturing for automotive and aerospace. George walked me through their facility. Clean, organized, modern equipment, workers who looked engaged rather than beaten down. What do you need to succeed here? He asked. Nobody at Detroit Precision had ever asked me that question in 23 years. Clear expectations, decision-making authority, and leadership that honors its commitments. That's exactly how we operate.
They offered me COO, $55,000 base plus performance bonuses, full benefits, and 3% equity.
35% more than Detroit Precision had been paying me, with real ownership in the company's future. When can you start? George asked. Monday. 4 months into my new role, I received an email from Paul Anderson, an internal auditor at Detroit Precision. Mr. Robinson, we're reviewing financial irregularities in operations reporting. Your name appears throughout our documentation. Could we schedule a brief call? I agreed, curious what they'd uncovered. We found inflated efficiency numbers and manipulated cost reports. Paul explained. All signed by Barry Coleman, but the supporting data clearly shows your actual work. Were you aware of these reporting discrepancies? I reported real numbers every week. What management did with them afterward wasn't something I monitored. That aligns with our findings. Barry was claiming credit for improvements he never implemented. Thank you for your cooperation. 3 months later, the final update arrived. Detroit Precision lost the Ford contract after multiple quality failures and delivery delays. 340 workers laid off. The company sold to a Japanese manufacturer for $22 million less than its previous valuation. Barry Coleman was terminated for fraudulent reporting and banned from holding management positions in automotive manufacturing. Meanwhile, Great Lakes won a $4.8 million Ford contract for transmission housing components. I hired 18 new workers, including 95 people from the Detroit Precision layoffs. Miguel Santos joined as production supervisor with a 25% salary increase. Good to be working with you again, Wade, he said on his first day. Good to have you on the team, Miguel. At our quarterly company meeting, George announced the Ford contract extension through 2027. This success belongs to Wade and his operations team. They're proving every day that American manufacturing can compete with anyone in the world. The applause felt earned this time, not obligated. Emma got accepted to Michigan State's mechanical engineering program with a partial academic scholarship. The remaining tuition was manageable now, especially with my equity participation starting to pay dividends. She called the day her acceptance letter arrived. "Dad, I'm in. 4-year program with a guaranteed co-op placement. I'm proud of you, kiddo. You earned it. Are we going to be okay with the money?" "We're going to be better than okay." For the first time in 3 years, that was completely true. Last week, I drove past the Detroit Precision plant. The parking lot was half empty, security guards checking IDs at gates that used to stay open. A sign in Japanese marked the new ownership. The building looked smaller somehow, diminished. I didn't feel vindicated or triumphant, just settled. Sometimes walking away from a broken promise is the only way to discover what you're actually worth. Barry Coleman thought he could steal credit for work he never did while treating competent people like disposable equipment. That decision cost him everything: his job, his reputation, and the respect of everyone who knew what really happened. I kept the only promise that mattered, the one I made to myself about not accepting less than I deserved. Look, if you're reading this and recognize yourself in what happened to me, here's what I learned. Competence isn't enough if you're working for people who don't value it. Loyalty isn't a virtue when it's not reciprocated, and sometimes the best thing you can do for your family, your career, and your self-respect is walk away from people who take you for granted. Don't let anyone convince you that standing up for yourself is unprofessional. The real professionals are the ones who honor their commitments and recognize the people who make their success possible. Find those people, work for them, and watch what you can accomplish when your efforts are actually appreciated.
Some days feel off, like I'm standing but still falling. A little pain, a little tired, and no one to tell it all to. There are days that feel unsteady, like I'm drifting out of place. Every step just feels so heavy, with a smile I have to fake. A little hurt I keep inside me, a little weight I always hide, and 1,000 quiet worries I've been holding deep inside. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. I keep walking through the silence like it's all I've ever known. Every crowded room reminds me how it feels to be alone. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. Maybe one day I'll be stronger, maybe I'll learn how to speak, but for now I keep it buried in the parts of me too weak. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. Don't pity me. My heart doesn't need your mercy. I can still stand on my own. I was broken by your leaving, fell deeper than I thought I would. But pain has taught me how to heal now and survive what once I couldn't. You don't have to look back sadly, don't reach out with guilty hands. What you shattered made me stronger. Now I rise where I once collapsed. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. I once begged for your affection, now I've learned my worth in scars. And the man you left in pieces found his own way through the dark. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. Begun. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll rise alone again. I'll rise alone again.